Welcome back to Behind the Vocals. This week we are joined by the one and only Ben Hoagland of Extortionist. It's a wonderful episode. We have a great conversation talking all things vocals, lyrics, diving into some of his favorite lyricists of all time, favorite frontman and vocalists, and more. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, we are joined by the one and only Ben Hoagland of Extortionist. Sir, how are you doing? How's it going today?
I'm good, man. Just got done with work, and here I am chatting with you now.
Oh yeah, that's appreciate you being here, man. It's an honor to have you. Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to pick your brain about all things vocals and all the goodies and stuff.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely,
It's a pleasure.
So how I like to start this, just kind of give you the floor. Those that know you, maybe those that don't know you, and they're just watching. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Just give a little introduction.
Well, as you just heard, my name's Ben Hoagland. I sing in the band Extortionist. Also been a graphic designer for 17 plus years. And yeah, basically music and art is all I really do. And those are probably the two things, if you do know me, that you know me from. So yeah.
Nice. And having a graphic designer in a band would be amazing. I have to say that has got to be awesome for the rest of the band. Just you don't ever have to worry about merch designs.
I mean, our band's pretty lucky because not only do I do the art stuff, but our guitar player Blue, he's like our producer and runs the recording studio. And then our bass player that we just announced today, Riker, he films our music videos. So we kind of all in house at this point.
That's awesome.
But, yeah,
that's super awesome. Like the whole, you guys can do everything yourselves. You don't have to like outsource anything really.
for the most part, yeah. No, it's quite convenient. I will admit.
Do you do like the cover art and everything too for like albums? You handle all of that? Nice.
Yeah. I mean, there's one album cover we have where I collaborated with an artist from overseas. That was many years ago, but for the most part, I generally do everything.
Okay. Nice. Very nice. And you said you've been doing art for 17 years?
Yeah, I think just about. Might even, let's see. I started playing around with Photoshop when I'm also bad at math, so if I butcher this, it's like 12 or something, and I just turned 28. So, however many years that is, I think.
16? Math?
Yeah, okay,
Math is hard.
Yes. Yeah, math is hard. I never passed a math class.
All right, so I have to ask, which was first, Photoshop and art or vocals? How long have you been doing vocals?
Oh man, okay. Well, so I do play a little bit of everything. I actually started on drums before anything, and when I was 5, and then shortly after picked up guitar, and then guitar and bass at the same time. But I started doing vocals around, I think I was like 12 years old, maybe, when I really tried to learn how. But yeah, I think that sounds about right. So I think they kind of started at the same time. The graphic design and the music thing, for me, they kind of just coincides with each other. So
that's awesome. So what inspired you to get into vocals? You said you played other instruments. So what kind of made you go that route?
Well, let's see. I don't know. I just thought it was cool, especially when I was a kid. Always just, I don't know. I think like most people who do vocals or whatever, I think, it's just, especially if you're into the heavy music, so I feel like some people just try to learn at some point, but I can pinpoint a band that really made me want to start doing it. And it was, Chad Rulick from For the Fallen Dreams, when the record Changes came out, or around that time. Well, that record just generally, I don't know. I just liked the way that guy sounded, and I just tried to mimic him when I was younger, and I just kind of started doing it. And then my previous bands, I usually just played guitar and did backup vocals. Even in Extortionist, technically, in the very, very beginning, not a lot of people know this, but I was actually the original guitar player and did backup vocals. But then, like, very shortly after, I ended up becoming the vocalist instead. But yeah.
So what would you classify yourself as? Are you a vocalist? Are you a guitar player? You a drummer since you start on
I
drums, like,
I mean,
or are
I
you
think
just a
at
jack of all
heart,
trades? Like I can
I
do it
mean,
all.
I think I'm a jack of all trades. I feel like that's probably the best answer. But if there was anything, I mean, mostly guitar, if anything, like guitar and vocals, both at the same time. But yeah, yeah, I'd say I'm just a jack of all trades a
Okay,
little bit.
that's sick. And yeah, I'm sure that it has to help with vocals, right? Being able to play guitar and drums and everything, having like that knowledge, it helps with like how you write, I'm sure, and everything too. Correct?
Yeah, yeah, especially it's weird. I A lot of the vocal patterns that I write, I usually write them around what the drums are doing. So, um, I don't know, and I kind of take some influence from like hip hop a little bit, like at least for like the screaming vocals and whatnot. But yeah, yeah, definitely does help.
Okay. So, how did you learn how to do vocals? Because if you've been doing them for right at 16 years or so, there wasn't a lot of information out there like there is now on how to do half of the stuff or any of it really.
Yeah, actually, that's a funny question because I don't think up until I think I was doing it incorrectly for most of my music career, to be entirely honest. But I feel I just imitated like dudes that I thought sounded sick, and that's kind of just how it got started. And then up until, oh man, probably within the last like honestly 5 years or so, I feel like I actually started to learn how to like properly do stuff, and especially when we started using in-ear monitors for the first time, like
Mhm.
back a while ago, opened opened my mind up to a lot of like, oh, weird, I don't need to be doing things this certain way. Like, I don't need to be pushing nearly as hard and like trying to be, I grew up in the era where it was like, you sucked if you were quiet,
Yeah.
like way back. And so naturally, I'm just pretty loud, but I used to blow my voice out on tour all the time because I wasn't doing it correctly, like I
Right.
said, But once we got in-ear monitors, it's a total game changer. I started watching that Melissa Cross DVD at one point. I didn't finish it, but a lot of good shit in there, and yeah, but yeah. So I'd say just to answer the question, yeah, I just try to imitate people, and then eventually, after doing it for so long, eventually you gotta pick up on the correct technique if you tour as much as I do,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Absolutely. The Melissa Cross is a staple. I feel like,
yeah,
especially if you've been doing it for a long period, at some point in time that you got introduced to Melissa Cross to pick up tips and tricks, and it definitely helped a ton of
yeah,
people. You
yeah,
know, as far as figuring
abs-
out what to do and what not to do.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
what were some early mistakes you made when you were learning vocals?
Um, it kind of just like probably just trying to be too loud, and also like um one huge thing that I learned from Melissa Cross is like, you know, the emotion that like how the vocals sound and like the emotion that like kind of comes with the way that especially like screaming vocals sound, like you don't need to throw your whole body into it and act like, you're like living in those emotions while you're performing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like it's way better to just you know use proper technique and whatnot. Like you don't have to throw your whole body into it and try to be as loud and like as intense as you can to like perform like the same way, if not better, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. I don't even know if I'm making sense right now, but like I don't know. I used to feel like I just like had to like let it all out on stage, which I do, but with while using technique, but I would just shred my vocal cords, make like acting like I needed to like have this big old like emotional outburst on stage, and I noticed that it was just like overdoing it on my voice. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
I just had to learn how to like reel it in. You know what I mean? So
Less is
that was
more
a big
sometimes.
mistake. Yeah, exactly. No, it's huge, and the mic does the job for you.
Yeah. You mentioned in ears. the going from just the house PA, as you know, like sometimes you'll get there and there'll be a pretty decent PA and you can hear everything as you should, and so you don't have to which you don't need to push, anyways extra, but if you can't hear, if you're at a really shitty PA system, you're trying to compensate and
Yeah. That's a better way to put it. You're overcompensating. That's like what I would do, and especially without in-ears, if and especially before we had like a front of house guy tour with us and whatnot, it was if I couldn't hear myself, I felt like I needed to be louder and whatnot, and so it just I'd always just fuck up my vocal cords.
Very easy to do. It's very easy to do. All right, so was there a moment kind of where it was like an aha moment where everything kind of clicked when you were doing vocals, where you're like, okay, kind of like you said, like where in-ears or anything like that? Just
I honestly, I feel like every time we do a record, like even though I've been doing it for this many years, I feel like I just have more and more like aha moments as every time we're doing a record, and I'm like, oh, okay. Again, it's in most of the time, it's just like I'm trying to like relearn how to project my voice without, overdoing it and overcompensating. And, most of the time I just, it's just a matter of dialing something back, and then I can hit a note way better, or like, especially because we do singing and screaming and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like every time I just like unlearn an old habit that I used to have. So yeah, usually I think, especially on which record? Oh man, I feel like honestly, it wasn't up until this new record that we just finished that I really was like, okay, I think I finally actually understand it in terms of technique now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, getting in ears, that was a big aha moment for like kind of just unlocked a whole lot, and then yeah, especially this most recent record. But I'd say those are the two, if that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Which would you say is harder, learning to clean sing or doing the harsh vocals of screaming?
Man, I think singing is a lot harder because like in just the amount of control that it takes, and especially because we switch back and forth, and in Extortionist particularly, like I do a lot of different vocal styles in our music, and learning how to like switch on and off, and like using muscle memory in different parts of the body for different vocal styles. I feel like singing's been the most challenging for me, and I also didn't start like singing until much later on afterwards. So yeah, I feel like singing's the harder one to grasp, but yeah.
How was it learning to switch between the two, like you said, going from screaming to singing?
Oh man,
it definitely is challenging to switch those gears, if you will, within your vocals.
Yeah. Sorry. What's the question again?
Oh, how was it learning to switch in between the two?
Oh man, I feel like it was super difficult, and like most of the learning took place while we were on tour. Honestly, of course we like rehearse and whatnot, but on my free time, I haven't always had much of a lot of space to just go sit and sing for hours at a time and like practice. So I felt like a lot of it was, at least just for me, it was just like learning how to do it, like at least at the frequent switching on and off just from touring so much. And I still struggle with it sometimes, especially if it's like a tour in the winter time, and you're congested and sick and all that shit. It's like it's tough.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great segue. I want to know if you have a routine you do before you do vocals, and does it change depending on different variables, such as a one-off show or a fest, or you're on tour, going to the studio, or even, like you said, if you're under the weather, you're sick, which tends to happen a lot when you're touring. So what do you do anything different to kind of get ready and get your voice ready?
I definitely, I have my, pre-show or preset rituals. I do like, scales and whatnot. And I also do the like Himalayan like throat singing thing.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's like that weird didgeridoo sounding
Mm-hmm.
like, grumbly throat thing. I'll do that for a while. And then, after I run some scales, do some warm ups, do that. Um, if I have time, if I'm not rushing or running around the venue right before, I'll sing a couple songs just to kind of, especially mostly like sing some stuff, not do the screaming vocals, but just to kind of engage the singing muscle, muscle
Yeah.
memory. And then to be honest with you, uh, before every set, I take 2 shots of Jack Daniels and then I let it rip.
Whiskey is one that we hear a lot on here. A lot of like JMO and stuff like that. Somebody
Yeah.
just a shot to kind of, if nothing else, probably loosen up like the nerves and everything and get you ready.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets, at least makes me feel a little more confident.
And do you do
But
if you're under the weather, do you do anything different, or is it pretty much the same? Do you pretty much stick to the same regiment no matter what?
for the most part, I stick to the same. I usually warm up longer if I'm sick. And then I also highly recommend, at least it's worked for me, but those medicine balls from Starbucks, it's like a drink. It's called a medicine ball, or like I'll drink a hot toddy, or um, what else? There's one more. Oh, also like turmeric powder and hot water.
Mm-hmm.
It reduces inflammation. So sometimes I'll drink a bunch of that stuff and then try to get one of those vocal humidifier
Yeah,
things or whatever those
vocal
things.
mist.
Yeah, it's like those things you get from Walgreens, the kind of like Darth Vader mask
Yeah.
thing or whatever. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's generally the same. Sometimes I just add that stuff if I'm under the weather.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. All right. So, do you do anything for vocal care?
Uh, I try to do vocal cool downs as much as I can. I'm not the best usually I run straight to the merch table and then it's honestly kind of bad for my voice because then all of a sudden I'm shouting and talking
Yeah.
loud. But sometimes like I'll try to like run some scales and whatnot even after the set and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like, you know, cool it down a little bit. But other than that, not really, to be honest with you.
Okay. No teas or anything like that.
I mean, if it's like at the end of the night or we're like doing a drive overnight, maybe every now and then I'll, you know, drink drink a little bit of tea, but honestly, I don't do a whole lot of vocal care stuff, but it's probably to my detriment, but
You're just a beast, sir. You're just a beast. Nice. All
yeah.
right. So we're gonna shift gears a little bit. Let's talk
Okay.
lyrics.
Okay.
Where do you pull from for lyrics? Is it more of like a personal experience type of thing, or is it conceptual, or is it kind of like a hybrid of the two? Like, what's kind of your
Um,
go-to?
Everything that I write, it definitely comes from personal experience. Um, I'm not really good at, you know, coming up with concepts and I don't know. I have to feel whatever it is. At least with extortionists, like I have to really feel what I'm saying and like it needs. I don't know. We're a pretty emotionally driven band lyrically, um, and so everything that I write about is usually pretty honest and yeah, again, yeah, just based off personal experience. But I do write for other bands and whatnot, and if it's like a situation like that, I can help come up with concepts and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. I just prefer to write like I want to feel what I'm
Yeah.
saying on the mic. You know what I mean? I want it to, and also I want it to be something ultimately that like people can relate to because I enjoy connecting with people through the lyrics. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's easier for me personally. It's easier for emotional lyrics. Like if it's something personal to get more out of it. Like it's easier for me to put that extra emotion and effort, into it, and that little extra oomph, if you will.
yeah,
Where if it's, conceptual about whatever, it's not necessarily so near and dear to me. I feel like I'm not as invested in a way.
Yeah.
Like I am, but I'm not. If that makes sense.
And on top of that, like, I don't know, like, no, I mean, that makes complete sense, but it's I don't know, like, if it has nothing to do with like you or I or whoever, like, I feel like it's especially if you are like like, I guess, more emotionally driven band, or that's the type of music that you make or whatever. I feel like it's I don't know, I feel like it makes for a better performance if
Yeah.
if it really means something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can
So
you can see it and feel it in the voice, like
exactly.
in the body language, if you will, everything, like just all in all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a lyricist that you admire or look up to?
I have, yeah, I definitely do. Can I say multiple, or
You can
are
say
you
as
just looking
many as
for
you
one?
want.
Well, for starters, Lane Staley,
Okay.
uh,
Nice.
one of my biggest influences. Keith Buckley, also Drew Thompson from a band called Single Mothers. Um, Jacob Bannon from Converge, and um, yeah, I feel like those are probably my main ones. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
I like the array there. I like that
yeah,
lineup. Very
yeah.
nice. All right. We're gonna hit you. We're hitting it kind of early. This question's kind of difficult, so I apologize.
Oh,
It's gonna make you think a little bit. Do you have
okay.
a favorite lyric? And we've kind of made like a double side of this. It can be anyone's, out there, anybody's, or it can also be your own, or we can have one of each. You can have one of your favorite lyrics that you've done, and one from somebody else, or multiple lyrics.
Hmm.
It's a thinking one because on the spot it's hard to pinpoint that like one lyric. You're like, oh yeah,
Yeah. Man, that is a very difficult one. I'm very passionate on the lyric side of things. And I read a lot of lyrics. And some of my idols, I guess, in that sense, are extremely intelligent lyricists. So they have so many that I think are just so good. Man, let's see. Let me think here.
there's nothing like reading a lyric and just being like, wow, that's, like how it's wrote. It's like, that's beautiful. It's poetic. Like it resonates
Yeah.
just, like,
Yeah. Man, it's really tough. I like. hmm,
the hard hitting question.
it is. Um, Man, let's see. This is a really tough question. You might
I
have me
always have to warn
stumped.
people because it doesn't look bad like when you first say it, but then like on the spot trying to find like one lyric
Yeah,
is
man. There's a Okay. Um, I'll answer part of the question just because it's easy.
okay.
Not one to necessarily talk about myself or whatever. I will say like one of my favorite lyrics that I've done, which I can't really say it though, so not to be lame. Uh, Track 6 off of our new album. It's uh, you know details to be
Yeah.
announced. I will
Stay
say I
tuned.
think are one of my favorite sets of lyrics.
Okay.
The whole new album I'm very proud of. But anyways, take myself out of the spotlight here.
So the
But
new album is about to be a banger.
yeah, it's pretty intense lyrically. It's a very honest record.
Nice. Are we
But
allowed to know when it comes out? Probably not.
not yet.
Okay.
But just keep an
I
eye on
didn't think
social.
so. I just wanted to just try. I had to at least ask.
Sooner than you might think.
Okay.
But
Nice.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Let's see. Okay. I don't know if it's my favorite lyric, but it's the first one that just came to my head, and it's one of Drew Thompson's, and he's a very clever and witty lyricist and a very honest lyricist, and he has a lyric that says, "Passion paralyzes all my good intentions," and I think that's a very uh, thought-provoking
Yeah, I like that.
line. Can't say it's my favorite, but it's one of my favorites of his. Like just one line, but I'll just go with that for my answer.
I like that one though. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
really good one. Okay. So, do you have tips for new songwriters as far as like lyrically, flow, patterns, all that good stuff?
Tips. What's a good tip I could give? Um, Man, let's see.
Is there anything that helps you when you're writing lyrics or anything? Like if you get writer's block or anything?
I mean, I don't know if it's much of a tip, but I mean, don't force it, you know? I guess just my opinion and I guess just my approach is like, I typically only write when I'm really feeling whatever it is I'm writing about, but sometimes people are on deadline, so that's not the
Yeah.
most sound advice, but yeah, I mean, I do like to free write when I'm hitting writer's block, if you know what that is. It's
Yeah.
just start writing, even if it doesn't make sense until eventually something, it shakes something loose and you end up, you know, with whatever it is. I found that to be a good tip if you're ever in a writer's block situation. And also, I don't know, like, again, not much of a tip, but just might be just an opinion, but just write from the heart, just like be real, you know.
Yeah.
I think shit's way cooler if you write that way. You know what I mean? Don't be scared to say the things on your mind sometimes, But yeah, in terms of also just actually a little tip. If you're struggling with words and your choice of words, just go on thesaurus.com. Like you'll probably come up with something cooler if. But yeah, I guess that's my answer. I don't know. I kind of have a strange approach to songwriting sometimes, but
When you talked about free writing, do you also just get like, say you're driving in the car somewhere and like maybe a lyric or a line pops up? Do you like type that down in a notepad or something and then kind of go back like you said later and maybe it can inspire like, or let me expand on this line that I come up with, or this line
yeah.
sucks. Like it could go either way. You never, but I mean,
Yeah, actually, so most of the time, and most of the lyrics I write, it is when I'm driving. Don't text and drive, but
voice
I mean,
memos.
I'm guilty, but I'm on long drives a lot, and usually when especially if it's like an overnight drive, I'll just be sitting there and it'll just start flooding in, and like I have to write it down right
Yeah.
then and there. Not much of a tip, but that's when it all comes to me usually. So
Yeah, write down anything you get, like idea wise, because I know
yeah.
I've been guilty of like drives or places, and I'll think of something and I'll try to like keep saying it in my head over and over again, and then when it comes to write it down, I'm like, shit,
Yeah.
what was that line? Like I can't remember it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, voice memo, absolutely. The amount of like cool melodies I've thought of, and just all the cool shit I've lost because I didn't pull out my
Yeah.
phone. I'm like, damn, I remember so many times that happening. So yeah, pull out your phone, even if you sound stupid, just lay it down.
Good or bad, you never know. I mean,
Yeah, you
always
never
go
know.
back. A friend of mine actually, he told me some lyric advice a long time ago, and I always really liked it. He said, as an exercise, a lot of times he'll just clear his mind, not like focus in on a specific topic, but he'll just kind of like spend 5-10 minutes. He'll like allot that time and he'll just start writing. No specific idea. He'll just write and then just keep writing stuff. and then go back later, kind of like you said with like the free writing. Just go back later, and he'll just start like, okay, this is cool. I can go with this, and just kind of like pick through it. And he said that
Yeah.
helps a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's basically free writing. Don't like even if it's just a bunch of fucking
Yeah,
nonsense. It's like it can knock something loose up here, and next thing you know, you could get on a roll and write a whole song. And, that happens to me sometimes. So no, it definitely helps. That would be one of the main tips I could give if you're in a writer's block
yeah.
situation, of course. But yeah.
Don't you love whenever everything clicks and you can write a whole song? Like it's
Oh
just
yeah.
you're like, wow, everything is like
Yeah.
going and flowing together.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the days that you're fucking on it and just, especially like when you're in the studio with your boys and whatnot, and it's just like magic's happening. Like
Oh
the,
yeah,
the train's moving. Like those are the best days.
absolutely. All right. Which is harder? I've already asked this question once with you, but it was singing, screaming. Now I want to know front man or vocalist.
Hmm. Um, we're talking like technique versus
Yeah,
performer,
because I
right?
mean you've
Basically.
seen like vocalists that pretty much they don't really do anything. They kind of they stand and they're amazing at what they do, their craft,
Yeah.
but they're not so much I guess the performer and like the charisma, if you will, to like have the audience in the palm of their hand. And then you have people who may not have as much technique or
Yeah.
but they can keep the crowd engaged and going from start to finish, and there's no like lull.
I think, okay, like if I were to categorize myself, I feel like I would be option B. I feel like it's easier to control a room than it is to, you know, like be the technical guy
Yeah,
personally. I don't know. I guess because, you know, we started as more of like, I guess, a beat down, deathcore, down tempo band way back in the day. And I was very influenced by like actual hardcore music and whatnot. I found it easier to just yell in a mic and get people hyped and, and do that sort of thing. But, as it's progressed and I've started, doing more stuff that it requires, some technical ability, I find it more difficult to be the technical guy, I guess.
especially as you've been implementing like singing and everything, like clean singing, like there's a lot more that goes into that. There's a lot of
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of a lot of things you have to do and try to make sure you hit and like
yeah.
switch
I
from.
like to, I like to just lose my mind up there, ideally, but I also want to be able to do the cool technical thing at the
Yeah,
same time. You know what I mean? So, but to have to like have conscious thoughts while I'm performing is kind of it can kind of be a damper sometimes, but
yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, sometimes you have to reel it back to be able to like have the air to do the different things,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Breath control is,
I,
man, that's like the biggest. But
it can be rough. All right, so do you, speaking of breath control, this is another great segue. So we're just kind of like seamlessly going to the questions. But do you have a favorite song or part to do live or vocally in specific? And on the other side, is there one maybe you wrote in the studio that, sick in the studio and you're like, hell yeah, this is awesome. And then it comes time to do it live and you're like, what did I do to myself? Like, I didn't think about breathing. I didn't think about, having to pull this off live. And you don't hate it, but when it comes time in the live set, you're just like, okay, let's
yeah,
try to get through this.
yeah. Okay. Sorry, apologies. Remind me of the first half of the question.
Just one you love to do, like your favorite
Oh
part to
yeah, yeah,
do,
yeah.
like vocally.
One I love to do. Um, hmm. I think we have this song on our self-titled EP called "Forget Me" that we don't play very often. But when we do play it, I don't know what it is, but that song just gets me pumped. I have a lot of fun with that one. Um, and Yeah, I think that's one of my favorites to perform. I don't know why. I don't think there's much that's even special about what I'm doing on it. I just think it's a fun one to play personally. And then one that I really fucked myself over on is we have the song on our most recent record. It's the last song on the album. It's called "When It All Goes Dark," and if you listen to that song, you'll know exactly what I mean. I'm like, why did I do this to myself? And when our first time playing it, it was a little over a year ago, and we were on tour with Born of Osiris and Attila. And you know, I mean, I think I pulled it off pretty well for the most part, but man, I anticipated the whole set for for when that song came in. I had to like really keep it in until after that one because it requires a whole lot of breath control.
You gotta love those. You're so pumped about the song. You're like, it sounds sick, and then you go to replicate it. And you're like, when I can't punch in parts, like I
Yep.
didn't think about this.
Yeah. No. I mean, I made sure I could do it. Like, and there's a part where I'm switching very quickly back and forth between singing and screaming at the end of it and all of it, and it's like I was like, I pulled it off, but it was not easy.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Okay, so a little bit of a weird question for you.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a favorite call out? And this question is inspired by and they get shout outs on the show all the time, but Adam D and Kyle Medina from Body Snatcher, because they
Yeah,
tend to
that's
have
great.
like the most off the wall call outs and
Yeah.
like yeah.
Oh man.
Or do you
Uh,
kind of stick to more like traditional stuff, or do you like to throw like the weird things out there just to mess with people and get them going?
it depends. Sometimes I am. Sometimes depending on the day or whatever. If I'm in a really good mood, I start saying some out out there shit just to be funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, I try to say funny, ignorant stuff sometimes. I don't know. I just think it makes for a show. I thought there was one funny one that we had when we were touring Europe with Distant, Dagger Threat, and Abbey Falls. It was we we all have this joke, and that rapper Blueface.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of us on the tour before a breakdown would hit, on the mic would say "Blueface, baby," and it would hit. And it's stupid, but we thought it was really funny, and everybody was like doing it. But yeah, I don't know. I know I have a handful that I say, but I forget what they are. I mean, sometimes I think we were in Tampa, or yeah, we were in Tampa the last time I did it. But a lot of my friends were there. A lot of my friends from like my home were in Tampa for some reason, and it was just a whole goofy vibe the whole night. And we were just having fun, and I, you know, guess kind of in a way, it's kind of like Matt Honeycutt because he's got some crazy ones.
Yeah,
But
he does.
I said, "Who's got the biggest dick in the room? Show me that shit." Like it's just some, you know, I don't know. Can't take yourself too seriously. That's why I love Kyle for doing that, and even I love a lot of Matt's mosh calls, and a lot of bands do that. But one guy who was really funny. Back in the day, we were on tour with a band called Insurgents, and their guitar player stepped in for vocals, and he would do SpongeBob mosh calls, and it was
God.
really funny. And like, he wasn't a vocalist, but he would just pop off on the craziest shit, like "Welcome to the Salty Spittoon" or like something wild. I don't know, but I can't think of what would be my favorite one. But I love funny mosh calls. I don't know.
I had to do that one just because it, and there's the traditional ones, and they work fine. Whatever gets the crowd going,
Yeah,
whatever, your bands,
yeah,
or like, if it's just like a fun, or, there's more of the serious bands that, we're just
yeah,
heavy and like pissed off.
yeah,
And obviously they're
yeah.
not going to say Kyle stuff usually.
Yeah.
But then is this something about those off the wall ones when it's like something crazy heavy's coming and then it's the most
Yeah.
random thing and seeing people's faces and then they just go crazy? I love it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, it depends on the night. I'm not, some nights, if I'm in a bad mood, sometimes I just want pure violence, and
Hey,
all seriousness, but for the most part, I typically prefer the fun mosh calls. I just think it puts on for a better show. And like I said, can't take yourself too seriously all the time.
yeah.
So fuck it.
Hey, those bad mood nights, those can be great shows though. When
Hey,
you're
yeah,
pissed off, you have that extra little like juice, if you will. I don't know. And then it's like
yeah,
the crowd sees, oh, he's really pissed about this, and then they're
yeah,
responding. And then it's like,
yeah,
yeah, it can.
yeah,
Those can be really good shows.
yeah. Sometimes it depends. It also depends on the tour package too. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, what's the whole vibe here of this show? Like when we're at home because we know everybody, it's like all cards off the table. Like whatever, it's gonna be a bunch of dumb shit all night, and we're just gonna fuck around. But you know,
those are
just
fun.
depends.
Those are fun shows.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of deviate for a minute. Do you have favorite bands to tour with?
Uh, yes, yes, I do. Um, well, I have to first give it to a band who is no longer around anymore, and that was Distinguisher. Uh, those are my some of my best friends in the world still to this day. We were like best friend bands. We toured together all the time. Um, they were my favorite. Um, Another good one is Distant. Um, Absolutely loved touring with them and Dagger Threat and Abbey Falls. That was great. Um, who else? There's a there's a lot of good ones, man. I feel like we've been fortunate to tour with so many homies, so I feel bad for leaving some people out. But man, we're a very friendly band in that regard. Like we just like to hang out and like good vibes.
Yeah,
Back in the day, Lorna Shore when we toured with them, it was straight homie fest. That was a great time, and Body Snatcher was on that as well, and the whole tour package got along great. Oh man, there's so many bands I could list. I don't know. I feel like yeah, but if I had to give it to anybody, my favorite band to tour with was Distinguisher.
sick. Love
Yeah.
that. Do you have a favorite tour you've been on? I'm putting you on the spot and everything, so everybody's gonna see this and be like, "Damn it, Ben."
Yeah, no, for
It's
sure.
like MySpace top 8, but worse right now.
Yeah, favorite tour I've been on, man. Hmm. Well, I guess if it's my favorite, I'd have to say that like, oh man, that's so tough.
I also want to put favorite show. Do you have a favorite show also?
Oh, uh, I do have a more recent favorite show so far,
Okay.
and that was Pontiac, Michigan, the last day of the Angels and Villains tour with Born of Osiris and Attila, Traders, Not Enough Space, and us. That was a really fun show, and so as of recently, that would probably be one of my favorites. My favorite tour would have been, man. I feel like I just have to say our like when we went to Europe because it was like Extortionist's first time, and that was with Distant. That was a very accomplishing feeling.
Yeah. How are the
And
European shows?
they were good, especially London was when it was like really cool for us. We didn't realize how many people knew who we were out there, and that was one of those shows for us where it was, stage divers, the whole crowd's fighting for the microphone, and it's just we're just getting bum rushed up there,
That's
and
awesome.
that was kind of like a first like, oh holy shit moment,
Yeah.
like it, this is crazy because we just started in a shed out here in Spirit Lake, Idaho, in a town of like less than 1,000 people, or just around 1,000 in the middle of nowhere. So that was kind of like a very good feeling. So I feel like I
Sure.
have to give it to that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
All right. See, we've got your favorite band. Well, I guess we'll get back on task for a minute. But do you? This is kind of a sports influence question.
Okay.
But do you have any pre-show rituals or pre-studio rituals you have to do? Like, are you kind of superstitious? Do you have to wear like a certain pair of socks or shoes? Or
Um,
I've had someone say they had to drink a certain, I think it was a light blue Gatorade in the studio.
oh
Um,
yeah.
Just anything
I
like that you have to do. And it could be anything from, the normal, like, hands in, kind of like huddle with the band beforehand to,
yeah.
yeah, anything like that.
um, yeah. This apologies if this is too vulgar. Actually, no, I'm not. It's funny. Whatever. People are gonna fucking laugh. Okay, so we have a ritual in the band and with the crew, or whoever our crew is, and uh, it's called cum fart. And all of that means is 30 minutes before our set, all the boys in the crew or whatever, we get together and we start cranking music, like just cranking tunes. It's usually like divorced dad rock, uh, you know, some like Crossfade or
Oh
some
my God.
POD or some Alice
I
in
was gonna ask
Chains.
what exactly, like, is there certain like divorced dad rock
Yeah,
bands you
yeah.
go
It's
to?
like it's like early 2000s, late 90s, like dad rock, and we usually just or Stone Temple Pilots is another big one. And like it's like mandatory. Even if everybody's in a bad mood, this like totally changes the whole vibe of going on stage. And we get together 30 minutes, even if we're tired, even if we're pissed off or whatever. We grab a Bluetooth speaker, usually crack some beers or drink a little alcohol, take a couple shots or whatever, get loose, and then just kind of like dance around, fuck around with each other and like get each other pumped up and just kind of uplift the mood. And, that's like a mandatory thing we have to
Oh
do.
yeah.
I forget how the name came about. I think it was our photographer on the tour who's like, I don't know, let's just call it this. And it just ended up being that. Just dumb shit, but it
Yeah, I'm
definitely
sure it
does
helps get
boost.
the vibes up too. It kind of
It,
gets you
it
like
does. It
ready and
does. Yeah, we're like we're going out on stage together. There's a sense of camaraderie. We're getting each other pumped. And then usually it puts us all in a better mood, and we get psyched and go out and have a good time. And then yeah, I don't know. It is like mandatory, like the double shot of whiskey right before we play. I don't know why, but I've done it forever. It's just kind of a way to just get me in the zone, I guess.
yeah.
But not the best habits, I must say, but works for me and I have a good time doing it, and
Yeah.
I feel like it makes me feel better.
I'm sure if you didn't get to do it, you would feel like, yeah, that superstition would hit you. Be like, this show's gonna suck because I didn't get to do my shot.
Yeah, a little too in my head, a little too
Yeah.
stiff, It's like, I don't know. Get psyched with my boys, take a couple shots, and aside from the obvious like vocal warm ups, of course I'll do those too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hell yeah. I love it. I love the name too. Dad rock.
it's, like, I do not remember how that came about, but and then you can't help. So when somebody hits the group chat and says, come for it, it's like everybody's like, haha, it just kind of makes another thing that just kind of uplift the spirits because it gets hard out there on tour.
Oh yeah.
We get exhausted and you know homesick or whatever, and it's just like something to laugh at.
Oh yeah. While we're on the subject of tour, so for vocalists or musicians that want to look into touring or want to get into touring, is there any advice you can give them as someone who's done and is actively touring and living the life?
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna sound super not helpful, but it's honestly it really doesn't get much more true. But I don't know, like in the words of Dave Grohl, man, like just get out there and go play. Like go play as many shows as you can. Go to go to local shows or go to shows within your region, and just be a good person, make friends with other bands and musicians, and just try to go out and go play. Um, I mean, that's really like, I know it's easier said than done in some situations, but I mean, if we could do it out of Spirit Lake, Idaho, I believe anybody can, just go out and even if you're playing in front of just the sound guy, just keep going out there and
Those
eventually,
nights will happen too.
yeah, and
So
they will. And just go out and go play. That's honestly the best piece of advice I could get or could give. It's it really is true because booking agents and other promoters from other areas and other that will eventually notice, and maybe you'll start hitting the road.
Yeah. What about as far as like surviving on the road and just like being able to deal with that? Because it is hard. Tour,
Yeah.
it's not all fun and games. It's rough. It's long drives, no sleep. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh man, advice. I feel like you know, bring extra underwear. Bring a towel. Get a Planet Fitness membership. This is all cliche shit, but it's so true because being on tour, a lot of the frustrating and exhausting parts, like you don't have the typical small like things just at your disposal that you normally have on a day-to-day basis. And like, I don't know, at least just, I'm not saying this is my big old grand piece of advice or anything, but just, try to take care of yourself as best as you can. like, and, you know, uh, yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think of a better answer for you. Um, I feel like I just roughed it for so many years to where it's just like I'm just the type to just roll up my sleeves and deal, you know. But yeah, I mean, without being too overbearing and taking up too much space, just bring many of the little things that are in that you wouldn't think about with you out on tour, because just having an extra pair of clean underwear sometimes might be the thing that makes your day.
Oh yeah.
At least I don't know.
Dude
Nothing.
wipes, baby wipes, all that good stuff.
Yeah, all
Bring
the stuff, man. All the stuff. But
absolutely. So, as someone that's been around and doing this for a little bit, how is it being a band and making music and getting out there in 2025 compared to, 10, 15 years ago with the MySpace days and or even like early Facebook, but mainly like MySpace and stuff like that, cuz the music landscape and everything and the way bands I guess market themselves and stuff now has vastly changed.
oh, really?
MySpace you could just message on, back and forth and network and do stuff and promoters. And now it's like you kind of have to have a presence on all these socials and, content. And just, you mentioned bringing like photographers and stuff out on the road. Like you kind of have to have a content person doing things for you nightly. And it's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. I typically have a lot to say on this subject matter because like I'm pretty young, but I started touring when I was really young. I didn't really live your average teenage life.
That's awesome
So
though. It's a
I,
lot of
I
experience and
yeah, I kind of I feel like an old head sometimes, even though like I'm only 28, but um, yeah, like I'm not a very big social media guy. And back like especially when Extortionist started, like touring was the way, that that's how we hit the ground running. We're like we just want to play shows. We were beating the absolute shit out of the nearest market, Spokane, Washington, like playing like twice a month, and then also just playing the surrounding areas. Like we were just staying so busy, and um, you know, that was how you kind of got the bigger opportunities as time went on. Was you just it was based on like how much are you touring and how much are you on the road and whatnot. And if you were a band that was willing to, eat shit on the road and do these grindy tours for a long time, it was like that was the way to do it. But now you got, I mean, as all of us know, you got TikTok and all the, reels and all the social media stuff
yep.
and I don't know, it's just so different. I can honestly admit that like we struggle really hard with that. You
It's a
know,
definite adjustment for bands that have been at it and have been, touring, like you said, just doing it the old fashioned way, the even like the passing out flyers back in the day, like promoting shows and stuff like that. It's
yeah,
not like that now.
no,
It's a whole different approach and like
yeah,
it's definitely
yeah.
hard for bands to evolve to that or adjust to it, if you will. that aren't used to
Yeah,
that.
no, it's I can honestly admit, yeah, I've been struggling really hard with that. Because Extortionist has toured a shit ton. Like if you actually look at our tour history, like we're down to tour 6+ months out of the year, you know what I mean? And we've had, you know, quite a few years where we do tour for longer than that and whatnot. And it was just like, but now you got these bands coming in that'll, you know, blow up on TikTok and they'll accumulate these massive followings, and then they, all of a sudden they get offered some ginormous tour at like an opening slot for, and um, it's weird. It's like not not hating on anybody, but it's just really weird because a lot of those bands aren't prepared for like
Yeah.
the calibers of tours that they get thrown on, and then they either usually end up pissing somebody off or people on the tour or whatever, because it's just like they just they're essentially green, but they've just accumulated these huge followings and they don't know how to like maintain a business and X, Y, and Z and what. I don't know. It's super weird, like how it all kind of just shifted.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, if you're one of the lucky ones, then good for you. But yeah, I don't know. Definitely still adjusting. I'm still trying to figure out this whole social media shit, man. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll get it. But I'm just a road dog, I guess,
And there's something to said about being a road dog, if you will. Like, I think it was Adam from Orthodox. He mentioned, that you have the bands are chasing going viral essentially right now. That's like I guess their meal ticket, if you will, and
Yeah.
not shitting on any bands.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
everybody
fine.
to each their own. I'm definitely an old head, so I'm more accustomed to the bands that like you said, 6-8 months out of the year they're on the road, they're busting their ass,
Mhm.
they're going to every city they can.
Yeah.
And he said that pretty much it's like just because this van goes viral and say they have X number of listeners does not equate to X number of people at the show.
Ticket
But
sale, yeah.
yeah,
That was
vice
I was
versa.
about
A
to say that.
band may
Yeah.
not have this huge number of listeners that another band has, but they'll sell out capacity shows every city. Just about it doesn't always
Yep.
like equate back
Yeah.
and forth, if you will.
No, that was the next thing I was going to say. And it's funny because like I run merch for, I guess, bigger artists outside of, like Extortionist in this world and whatnot. And it's funny, like sometimes I'll get these gigs and I'll, be slinging merch for somebody with over 1 million monthly listeners. And then I go to their show and there's not even 100 heads like in the room. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, it's just so interesting to me.
the industry's changed a lot. That's why I like to bring it up,
Yeah,
just kind of get like feedback,
yeah,
from people that are living in it, because it shifted
yeah,
drastically in just in the last several years, really.
yeah. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I think every band or artist wants both. You want
Yeah,
to
oh,
be able
yeah. I mean, that's the
to,
dream. You just sell out millions of
yeah,
listeners, and selling out
yeah,
tickets every night, of course.
yeah, of course. But I don't know. It's just, it's wild. I do wish that the music industry would account for this thing that we're talking about a little more, though. You know what I mean? Instead of like, because like there are a lot of bands that do deserve like a shot, and like just gonna be blunt and honest, there are a lot of bands that do get lucky, and not all bands, but some of these bands are kind of a bunch of shitheads that don't really deserve the tours they're getting. Like that's not. I'm not singling out anybody in particular. I've just like I've seen just passing by. It's like, man, like I don't know. It's just it's
Yeah.
weird. It's weird. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's it's confusing to me for sure.
Right. It's a whole different landscape. While we're on this subject, do you have any advice for vocalist musicians in this time where, like we said, social media and how everything is, like they want to get going more? Like, what kind of advice? I mean,
Oh
do
man,
you
I
want to
mean,
say
like I,
just keep touring, like pump out the content? Like what do you think? Like, what's the best route in your opinion?
I mean, like I said, admittedly, not a social media guy, really. I couldn't give you the first piece of advice other than, be consistent with it. And I think that's like one of my biggest downfalls is like I don't got I don't got time to make content every day. Like I'm willing to do and put in the work or whatever, but it's hard to do it. Like
Yeah.
just that's just how it is. I mean, um, but I do think that there is still, you know, I do think it's still very important for bands to just go out and play as much as possible, you know, because, I think booking agents and obviously like you want to get a good booking agent so you can get better tours and this, that, and the other, and if you're not playing shows and you're not getting out there, there's a high possibility you're probably not going to get the tours or
Yeah.
you know, get to hit the road and whatnot. So, again, coming from, I guess, more of an old head mentality, but still something is, I do know record labels and agents and managers and X, Y, and Z still look for bands that are willing to hit the ground running and get out on the road. So, I guess that would just be my best piece of advice, you know,
Okay.
social media stuff. If you figure it out, let me know. Feel but yeah, just go play, man. Just go fucking play some shows. Get out there.
Oh yeah, I love it. Okay, so we'll get a little more advice from you. Do you have any advice for vocalists going in the studio as far as
I
like
guess,
writing, anything? Is any kind of advice to give them?
yeah. I mean,
As someone that was just in the studio, it's
yeah,
a good time to
yeah.
ask.
I'm in a studio environment all the time. Yeah. One, you know, be open minded. Also, um, your idea isn't always the right idea.
It's a good
You
one.
know, um, you know, uh, and let's see. I mean, obviously, practice your shit before you
Yeah,
go in and lay it down, unless you're just writing in the studio. But um, yeah, I think like if you're writing in a group setting, or even if it's just you and a producer or another songwriter or whatever the situation is, yeah, like I feel like there's a lot of instances where bands or just certain people in bands, I'm not thinking of anybody in particular, but you'll see sometimes like they have this idea in their head and they're just convinced it is like you know the thing, right? And sometimes it's just the wrong idea, and you can't be offended if the producer or I guess if the collective as a whole, it's like isn't really into it, so
yeah,
don't. I guess ultimately what I'm trying to say is, don't be difficult to work with, just like, but also don't be scared to try stuff out, and take a risk, get a little weird, make a mess, have fun. I mean, ultimately have fucking fun, really.
yeah.
A lot of people forget that aspect of this whole thing is remember why you started doing it, and you know just go create cool shit with your friends and enjoy
Yeah.
it.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And kind of like you said about being open minded, always remember that not necessarily what you think is the coolest part for you, but like the greater good for the song, like what's
yeah,
best for the song and in
yeah.
the
What
grand
serves the
scheme of things.
song? Yep, that's something that me and my guys always say. Like, does it serve the song?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then fuck it. Let's try something else.
All
But
right. So we'll go back to tour stories. Do you have any fun tour stories you can share that can see the light of day?
oh man, this is always such a dangerous
Yes,
question.
that's why I always have to. I have to give like the disclaimer, like they can see the light of day, because there's 100% stuff that does not need to be
Yeah, no,
like,
for
yeah, it needs to
sure,
stay on the
for sure.
road,
Yeah.
whatever city or wherever.
Um, God, I feel like I have so many tour stories. Um, Okay. I'll I'll just. I mean, one time, we were playing near 8 Mile in Detroit, and uh, we stopped at a gas station, and I was inside, and some dude stuck up the gas station while I was in there.
Oh,
Army crawled out of there. Don't know what happened, but gunshots were going off, and ran to the van, and our old bass player at the time, we all jumped in and got out of there real quick and floored it and ripped the gas thing out of the out of the tank and got out of there. But I have way crazier, cooler ones, but I'll just leave it at that for now. But that was a crazy night.
that's wild. That's scary.
That was the second half of the night.
Oh god.
But yeah, I got a handful of.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've
Sure.
got
The
some
fun
crazy.
stuff
I've
that
got some.
happens on the road.
Yeah, yeah, pretty crazy stuff. But
All right. So, kind of this portion, what I like to do is just kind of let you have the floor, promote whatever you want. Anything you want to plug, the floor is
yeah,
yours. And then, of course, we'll add it in the description down below so everybody knows kind of where to go to find you or to find whatever you would like to plug and promote.
yeah. Well, new album's coming out this year. Um, can't say when, but it's pretty soon.
Remember track
Uh,
6.
yeah, track 6 is a actually if might that might even be one of the singles. I'm not sure, but yeah, new album's coming out very soon. Can't say when. Keep an eye on the socials because announcements are very soon. Follow us on Spotify in the meantime. Follow us on Instagram, whatever. But yeah, just get ready for a new album, and we do have some shows we're announcing uh, this Friday. So
Nice.
yeah, so keep an eye out for those, and yeah,
Hell yeah. I'm
yeah,
stoked. I can't wait. You've got
yeah,
me. You've got me amped up. I'm excited to see what you wrote about.
it's
All right. So to end, what I like to do is just kind of again give you the floor. You're the star today, as always. But we're giving you the floor to, if you will, give some advice to maybe an aspiring vocalist, or maybe somebody that's been doing it for a little bit. Maybe this will help them get over like the rut if they're in one, or even a veteran. Just extra little bit of knowledge that might help them level up just a little more. But just what kind of advice can you give to the vocalists out there?
um breath control, reel it in, and you know don't just don't overdo it. And volume doesn't necessarily matter. So at least for all the people that are trying to do screaming vocals and whatnot, don't know if that shit's still taught being loud and whatnot, but just reel it in and focus and just, as cliche as it sounds, keep practicing, just keep trucking.
Hell yeah.
But
Great
yeah,
advice.
yeah.
All right. So I want to know, final question, top 3 vocalists, frontman of all time. You can break them into categories. You can do it however you want to do it. I'm curious who
Let's
you list.
see. All right. Well, Lane Staley, lyrics and technicality for him. Ozzy Osbourne, because he's the fucking Prince of Darkness.
Hell yeah.
And let's see, who's another one? Let's see. I'm gonna say Chris Cornell.
Okay.
I'm
Hell yeah.
gonna say that's my favorite. Probably a little different than what you're used to hearing, but
No, I love it. I love the diversity. I love hearing different answers, different, because we all like me personally. I listen to everything. I'm all over the place.
yeah,
Metal's definitely my go-to. What I listen to probably the most, but yeah, I listen to all kinds of stuff.
yeah. But I guess, oh yeah, what I was gonna say for heavy music, I gotta give it to, like, Bill Bozeman, Whitechapel.
Yeah.
Hats off to him. I feel like he's like one of the OGs. Oh man, and there's so many other ones that I absolutely love, but um, Oh man, Mitch Lucker, classic.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I'm a very nostalgic person, so all those like OG, like
Yeah.
deathcore vocalists in the heavy music world.
Both of them have a presence about them too. They're kind of like a menacing presence, like when
Yeah,
they're
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, can't. I mean, there's a million other ones I could list off, but I'll just stick with those.
hell yeah. Is there any bands that you absolutely have to watch or you love to watch live? Like if you're on tour or anything, is there like a can't miss band?
Oh, dude, Orthodox. I lately, man, that band sounds so sick live. I have been really into Orthodox lately. In terms of like smaller bands, or not smaller, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like compared to the like the other bands we were just talking about. But really love Orthodox. Um, Mugshot. I really like Mugshot too. Um, they're good, friends of ours. Oh man, there's so many good bands that we're friends with that I would love to shout out right now that you should not be missing. But yeah, yeah, catch those bands. I think they're on tour right now or about to be. So go
Yeah.
check that shit out.
Hell yeah. All right, Ben. Well, it's been awesome, man. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been an honor. I really appreciate your time and you coming on and chatting with me.
Yeah, no
And
problem. Thanks for having me, man.
absolutely, everybody, be sure to check out all the links down below and keep your eyes peeled for that new record that I'm
Yeah.
very excited about.
Oh yeah.
All right,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Absolutely. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you all so much for watching and listening to this episode of Behind the Vocals featuring Ben Hoagland of The Extortionist. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed chatting with Ben. Please be sure to check out all the links down below to stay up to date on everything going on with Ben, as well as dates and announcements from The Extortionist to learn about new music and shows coming to a city near you. Thank you all so much for watching and listening to the show. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys and gals on the next one.